iHeart radio station. I'm your host, Roman. We have a great show planned for you today. Please don't forget to stay tuned to IntellectualRadio.com after the drive at 5 for Warriors Talk with Rochelle at 6 p.m. with love and inspiration she spreads throughout the week. You got to hear it because how she do it is basically she spread a little love here and then a little inspiration there, and then it goes all over the place at 6 p.m. on Intellectual Radio after the drive at 5. Tonight, my guest is a four-time Emmy award-winning journalist, currently ABC News correspondent, best-selling author, health and eating products, and she's a family woman. Please give a drive at 5. Welcome via Zoom, Maria?
Mara.
Schiavocampo. How did I was practicing this.
I know. You know what? It happens to the best of them. Schiavocampo.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So give intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station your background.
You mean professionally or kind of my personal story?
Well, let's do a mixture of both a little bit.
A mixture of both. Okay. I'm originally from Maryland. I grew up right outside of DC. I am the daughter of an Italian immigrant, first generation. My mother's African American. And then I went to college in California. I went to UCLA, which is where I met my husband. We now have 2 kids together. And right after finishing college, I went back to Maryland to finish graduate school at the University of Maryland, studying journalism. And then I spent the first few years of my reporting career traveling the world as a freelancer, which was a very exciting time. I spent a lot of time in the Middle East, Asia, all over Russia. And then I came back and I started working at NBC News. And then from there, I went to ABC News. I left ABC News actually in 2017. I am now an independent content creator. So I'm with the Dr. Oz Show as a senior investigative correspondent. I also have a fashion and beauty podcast, iTunes Top 10. It's called The Trend Reporter. So if you're interested in fashion, beauty, wellness, please check it out. And I have 2 kids and a fur baby. So maybe that makes 3.
A fur baby. What's a fur baby?
A fur baby, my dog.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So I want to know your assessment in this presidential election cycle here, and why the media were so extra careful in calling key races that were normally would be called in any other race or any other presidential election. What are your thoughts on the media calling the election?
Well, I think it's a function of the unique circumstance that ultimately is caused by the pandemic. So because you have this pandemic, this unprecedented, well, in the last 100 years, unprecedented circumstance, a number of states made it easier for people to vote by mail. So we knew that there were going to be all of these mail-in ballots. Accordingly, a lot of Republicans blocked efforts to count these ballots early. So you say to yourself, well, why couldn't these states have counted the mail-in ballots as they were coming in? It would have saved us a lot of time and trouble. They could have, however, they were blocked from doing so in most of these swing states. So what ended up happening is we saw this kind of red mirage, if you will, where we saw a lot of states overrepresenting the number of votes for President Trump because his supporters were largely voting in person because he had gone through such a concerted effort in the weeks prior to discourage people from mail-in voting and to suggest that there was a fraudulent element to that when there's no evidence whatsoever that there is. And so his supporters overwhelmingly voted in person. And Joe Biden's supporters overwhelmingly voted, well, I don't know overwhelmingly, but the overwhelming majority of the mail-in ballots were Democratic. And so what ended up happening is that we saw all of these votes for Donald Trump come in early, creating this so-called red mirage. And then the states had to take the time to count these mail-in ballots that had come in. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of ballots, and that takes time. So that's why we saw such a delay. If this had been any other year where people went and they stood in line and they voted on election day, we would have had results in the time that we've come to expect seeing them. But that's not what happened in this case because of those mail-in ballots and because they couldn't count them early.
Now, if you look at the totals in each state, there is a big divide in the nation. What me personally, categorize it being individualism, classism, and racism as a result of the election being close. And a lot of people were surprised given the fact of Donald Trump's behavior that he received over 70,000 votes. What do you think
70
about
million.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, 70 million. You're
Right.
absolutely right. What do you think about the big divide and the categorization I just mentioned about the individualism, the classism, and the racism that signifies the presidential election of 2020?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've seen all of that. I think that finally, after 4 years of covering this president, the media got to a place where they were comfortable calling a spade and saying this person is a racist, or at the very least, this person puts forth racist ideology. And so I think what we are seeing right now with the number of votes that he got. Now, let's not forget, I think by last count, Joe Biden had 4 million more. So I think it's the largest margin of victory in the popular vote in presidential history. However, as you mentioned, Donald Trump did get more than 70 million votes. And I believe he got more than Obama. So I think what we're seeing is a country that is incredibly divided and incredibly polarized. And what that does is that mobilizes people on both sides, because everybody feels that this is existential. Everybody feels that their way of life and their philosophy on life is at stake. And so people come out, they are mobilized, they are motivated, and they come out to vote because we are seeing a lot of the fault lines in our society and culture materialize.
When you look at the categorization of this election and the stuff he has said regarding Black women, regarding, let's say, classism, society as a whole. He called places in Africa as whole countries. And there were some people, the 70 million people, some of those were African Americans. I'm not saying a large proportion of it, but some of them were African Americans. What you say to that?
That's very hard for me to understand. I think we need to make a distinction between Black men voting and Black women voting, because overwhelmingly Black women did their job, not only at the polls and the way that they voted, but in mobilizing others, in supporting get out the vote movement. So I have no issues with Black women. There are probably like 5 in this whole country that voted for Donald Trump. When it comes to Black men, I think the exit poll numbers are showing 18%, which was up from 2016. I don't fully understand it. I think some of it is, we had on my podcast, Run Tell This, we had Professor Brittany Cooper on a few weeks ago, and she put it very eloquently. She said, one of the ways that Black men feel robbed of their masculinity is that they never got to partake in the patriarchy in the same way that white men have. And so I think in some cases it is Black men seeking to partake in the patriarchy, and doing that by supporting kind of the biggest bully and alpha male around, and saying, well, no, I'm going to protect my, economic interests. Like 50 Cent said, I don't want to be 20 Cent, I'm 50 Cent. So I do think that, they're dealing with a whole other issue. They're dealing with misogyny. They're dealing with feelings of, masculinity, toxic masculinity. I do not understand how any Black person votes for Donald Trump, but it happened. And I would love to have those conversations with the brothers that voted for him. I would love to know why, because I think it's important for us to understand it.
Could it be the hip hop generation? The hip hop that came out. Kanye West, who received 60,000 votes, by the way, and he conceded before during the election, and nobody paid attention to it. You also have 50 Cent, Ice Cube, Waka Flocka, and what's that, Little
Lil
Pimp?
Wayne.
Yeah, Little Wayne, Little Pimp. Did the hip hop had something to do? The hip hop artist had something to do with that 18%. a black male?
I mean, it's possible. I really would want to speak to some of the men who voted for Donald Trump and understand what their motivation was. When 50 Cent talks about being economically motivated because of the difference in tax plans, that's something that I can understand. Now, do I respect it? Not necessarily, but I get it. You're wealthy. You want to protect your wealth, especially you came from nothing. He's Mr. Get Rich or Die Trying. And so that's his position. So I can understand that. With Ice Cube, I think this was purely 110% about his ego. He wanted to be treated like he was important, and Donald Trump successfully manipulated him into feeling that way. And he got played. That is my view. He got played by the Trump campaign, who then trotted out the fact that they had a meeting with him and waved it around and made it seem as though he was a supporter, even though he says that that's not the case. Did the others have any influence? I don't know. I don't know that Kanye West is influencing anybody's vote. I don't know that Lil Wayne is influencing anybody's vote. I think there were probably bigger factors at play.
Were you kind of shocked that these rappers came out all at once? Just
No.
about? Why?
No, and I don't look to rappers for my cues on social issues anyway. And anyone who does should probably reconsider their sources of information. Can they, and historically, have there been examples of extremely woke, well-informed rappers who are about the cause and they're doing the work? Absolutely, and without question. But the ones that we saw speak out in this election are not those people.
Donald Trump is now known as a lame duck in his presidency until January 20th. There is talk that he would not leave the White House peacefully. And there are fears if he loses the court battles that he would sign unnecessary pardons and executive orders. You were part of the ABC News correspondent. You covered some stuff, and also right now you deal with the investigation with Dr. Oz. I'm just basically saying, put your hat on for 1 second here. I know as a journalist you can't play the what if game. However, there are some people who are on edge on what Trump might do next. Can you respond to the fears and the fear mongering and the uncertainty that is set upon the nation as you see it as a journalist?
Well, first of all, we specialize in the what if game. That's pretty much all you hear when you turn on cable news is people speculating about the future. So I'm totally comfortable playing in that pool.
Oh, okay.
First of all, I would say don't give away your power and fear people who really have no power. I think at this point it's that paper tiger thing he's doing, where he's waving his arms around and throwing a tantrum, and there's really no reason to fear that. This is a nation of laws, and we have a constitution. And he has tested all of those boundaries, but he will not prevail in ways that are unlawful and unconstitutional. He can say he wants to go to court all day long, but you have to have a legal basis for a lawsuit, and you have to have evidence in order to prevail in court. And in the absence of both, you will not be successful. He says, oh, we're going to take this to the Supreme Court as though that's the first stop in a legal fight. It is not. There are several stops before something can go to the Supreme Court. So there's a lot of road that he has to get through. And I just don't think that it's going to make it there. It's certainly not going to be successful because there's no legal argument. And we should not forget, he's out of money in terms of what his campaign can fund. That is why they are sending out fundraising emails like crazy right now. It's because they burned through their money like a drunken sailor. And now they have next to nothing left. And they're trying to mount this huge legal challenge that's going to fail. In terms of unnecessary pardons, sure, he might do that. Lots of presidents do that. Lots of presidents do that on their way out the door. They pardon everybody and their mother. Executive orders, those are easily undone by the next president coming in. So I don't think people should worry about anything. If he refuses to leave, he can be removed. He at January 20th, he will just be another citizen.
Let's play the what if game again. A lot of people are saying, what would the first 100 days look like in the Biden administration? Right now, a lot of people, including Senator Ocasio, said we need to do this. A lot of senators say we need to do that, this, that, and the other. Is it too early to basically push everything on Biden right now? As a journalist, what would you're hearing the bits and pieces. As a journalist, what you're hearing as for the first 100 days would look like?
I think his priorities are clear. It's COVID and getting the pandemic under control. Whatever those measures look like. And it's the economy. I think it's getting some relief to the millions of Americans who are struggling economically right now, whether that's another stimulus check, whether that's some kind of rent moratorium, figuring out a way to address people's needs economically. Those are the two priorities, because those are really the things that are affecting people's day-to-day lives most urgently right now, is their health and their money.
Let's discuss Vice Presidential elect Kamala Harris and her being elected as the first Black female slash multiracial vice president. As a Black woman, what does it mean for other Black women and Black women who represents powerful positions in the nation of Vice President elect Kamala Harris being elected?
I think it's a beautiful, spectacular moment that hasn't fully sunk in yet. We always talk about representation mattering, and I was very emotional when Obama was elected, to see a Black man in the White House. And this means something different, because sexism is often more powerful than racism. And I did not believe that I would see a Black woman in the White House, even as number 2 on the ticket. I didn't think I would see this in my lifetime. So what I think it does is it shows us Black women the possibilities. We know what we're capable of, but we know that the world doesn't always see it the same way. So to see our views about ourselves reinforced, to see so much of the country voting for a Black woman, to see the way she carries herself and the way she engages with her family and everything that she brings to the table, to see that reinforced and supported by so much of the country is really, really powerful. So it's a beautiful moment. It's a beautiful time. And I hope that one day we will be talking about President Harris.
Define Black girl slash Black woman magic here in this election. The reason, and I see you smiling there, the reason for this question is earlier, Black women saved the Democratic Party to become the majority in the House. Now, Black women save the presidency. And what are your thoughts that Black women and Black women magic is putting their cape on? And the saying now is Black people went from picking cotton to picking presidents. I know you probably heard that.
So, I hadn't heard that. I love
that. What are your thoughts about that?
It's absolutely 110% true. Black women, can I curse on this show?
Yes.
Black women get shit done, okay? We do the shit that we necessarily don't feel like doing, but that needs to be done. If it needs to get done, it's going to get done, because we don't sit around feeling sorry for ourselves and licking our wounds for too long. We get up and we get shit done. Now, does that mean that we're not human? That just because we're magic, we're not real? That we don't feel pain, that we don't feel suffering, that we don't feel grief, that there are not many, 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 many days that we don't want to stay in bed with the covers over our head? Of course we feel all those things. But we get up and we get shit done every single day. And we do what needs to be done. So maybe people didn't love Biden. They didn't think he was the greatest choice. He wasn't the most exciting choice. But we did what needed to be done to support our interests. A lot of people felt that way about Hillary Clinton. They didn't love her as a candidate, but we did what had to be done to support our interests. We make sure our children are taken care of. We fight like hell for our men. Let someone do something to a Black man. We are the first ones in the street. We will protect Black men more than we protect ourselves. We will protect Black men at the cost of protecting ourselves. So I'm just really proud that we're finally getting some recognition for it, because this is not new. Keep in mind that Black women literally populated huge swaths of this country during slavery, that we were used as breeders to create free labor. We are the mothers of this country. And so the fact that we are getting so much recognition for it right now is long overdue. And Well earned.
How would you explain this election to your children? I know you're married to a black man,
Yes.
and you are proud, and you're like,
Fist in
on
the air,
that
right?
level. I did some investigation work on you, so I'm
Okay.
sorry. Um, to your children who were monitoring this election process and voting situation, you're a mom. You're a proud mom. You're a proud wife. What you say in this election cycle, because you mentioned something key. Black women are now the protector of black men. But now it's kind of like the lioness in the colony of lions to protect not only the king, but also the cubs. Your thoughts in explaining that to your kids, as well as the husband process.
Well, in terms of our family, we teach them that this is our kingdom, this is our castle, and mommy's the queen and daddy's the king, and you are the princes and princesses. And one day you'll be kings and queens of your own castle, but not today. So today you're gonna follow the rules. But we talk to them a lot about their ancestors and the struggles that we have overcome and the beauty and the magic of our people. And we make it clear that nobody seeks to oppress weakness, right? They seek to oppress strength. And so all of the challenges that we face in this country are because this country sees our strength and in a lot of cases fears it. In terms of this election, we've just talked to them about the importance of being engaged and involved. We both voted. We came home with our stickers and we let them know that we voted. I was very proud to show my daughter that we have a black woman now as vice president. We made them watch the speech on Saturday night. With kids, it's hard for them to fully get, but we make it very clear. If this were a regular year and we were talking about John McCain versus Obama, I would say like this person, just John McCain is a candidate who disagrees with Obama, and this is what they disagree on. And we support Obama because we tend to agree more with his policies, and also we're really proud of him as a black man. That would be the conversation. But today we're having a different conversation. It's this person is a racist, and they support racist policies, and they don't want anything good for our family, and they got to go. And so we're thrilled that now we're seeing them go.
What do you think this election means to the black community? President elect Biden said the black community had his back, and he said, quote, now he has ours. Senator Clyburn mentioned police reform and the consent decree within the first 100 days of the Biden administration. Do you think a police reform or consent decree is possible if Mitch McConnell is the head of the Senate?
Yeah, I think it's going to depend a lot on what Congress looks like, on what happens with the runoff elections that we're looking at, because that's going to really determine how much power President-elect Biden does or doesn't have. He can only do as much as Congress will work with him on. The presidency is not a dictatorship. Even if he has the support of Congress, I think police reform is a very, very, very tricky issue because there are a lot of people who support racial equality. They are against police brutality. They are saddened by seeing things like what happened with George Floyd and the murder of black men in the street. But when you talk about defunding the police or police reform, they're very uncomfortable with that conversation. So it's tricky, and I think it's going to take a lot of smart political minds and people who've been working on policy and people who've been working in communities and who have experience in this issue to come together and figure out what is going to work for the public and for black people so they can stop being killed in the street.
Let's discuss your book. Thin Inspired, How I Lost 90 Pounds, My Plan for Lasting Weight Loss and Self-Acceptance. What inspired you to write this book as well as share your personal weight loss journey to the public? Because a lot of people eh, are private about weight loss and they feel, the self-esteem and so forth and so on. Your thoughts on that?
Well, when you lose that much weight and you're on television, it's kind of hard to keep it private. And so I would get a lot of questions about it. I'd get questions from viewers on Facebook and, through emails. I would get questions from coworkers, friends, family, and, people just wanted to know what I was doing. And so this book was really the answer to that. It was just to simply provide.
Oh, I think we lost. I think we lost her. I don't know what happened. Um, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Hi, what happened? Hello?
Hi. Sorry about that. My computer just totally died and it was plugged into power. I don't know what's wrong with it.
Okay, no problem. I know we agreed on a half an hour, and I am so sorry about that. So this is what I'm going to do. I have a couple of more questions, and I know I promised the other guests to come. So if you don't mind, maybe sometime next week on Monday, you'll come back and we'll finish up on the questions if you don't mind.
Yeah. Why can you shoot me an email and we'll coordinate it?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So thank you so much. I really appreciate you and thank you for being understanding. I appreciate that.
Okay. Have a great night. Take care.
Thank you. You too. Okay. When we come back on the Drive at 5 on the intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station, we'll have the writer and producer of the Black Harvest film, Black Mama Stable, when we come back on the Drive.